Thank you for joining us this evening. Let's just get right into it, shall we? The news as of late, I think we can all agree, has been controversial, to say the least. With the recent rise in fake news, the idea of it becoming more mainstream, as well as actual fake news stories, it's hard to discern what to believe and what to dismiss. There simply is no denying that the news in and of itself is broken. The news has different, let's say, game-breaking issues for different people. For someone who's worked in the industry for years and years, Christiane Amanpour, the biggest issue with the news amongst many right now is the internet. The internet, things like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, allow anyone to post anything and everything they want, completely unrestricted, and call it news. This is, in her opinion, the cause of the fake news epidemic. In short, the internet is the driving force for fake news. Another problem with the news right now, according to her, is the concept of fake news itself. She believes that the idea became popularized during the 2017 election. And this election is the main reason why trust for the mainstream media is at an all-time low. Her mentality is that when the leader of the free world calls into question the credibility of news, it leads to many and many more people doing the same. She believes that mainstream media is the most trustworthy source of news in the modern era, and people constantly dismissing stories as fake news could be harmful in the long run. Her final problem with the news is the people consuming it. Our current political climate consists of some extremely opinionated people, or at least the more opinionated people are a very vocal minority. Due to this climate, it's very commonplace for people to dismiss dissenting opinions as fake news. People surround themselves with opinions and ideas that validate their own, and if they encounter anything contradicting that, it's immediately labeled as fake news. All in all, her problems with the news in its current state is people not trusting mainstream media. A stark contrast from what independent media creator Mark Schuldice believes the problem with the news is. His issue with the news is that mainstream news is no longer about informing the public about important issues, and more about getting the most amount of people to visit a website or watch a show. Headlines like these are designed entirely to get more people to click on them. Clickbait, if you would. He believes that fake news came about because of the mainstream media prioritizing headlines that will gain them more clicks rather than headlines that are accurate. Take, for example, the Russian collusion conspiracy. The media continues to push the idea of Russians potentially tampering with the 2017 elections with little to no proof, simply because they know headlines like that will gain them more clicks. His idea of the news being less about information and more about entertainment is not completely unfounded either. Every night, the news broadcasters end off their broadcasts with "Join us tomorrow for more," and online distributors urging the public to subscribe so that they can keep coming back to their website. News, like most things in the world, is less about providing a service to the public and more about what they will gain in return: money. A sentiment shared by Neil Thorne, an employee of the Newmarket newspaper Snap. He believes that the news is driven by money. Whoever's paying a news broadcaster decides what stories run, which causes the bias we see in the news. Beyond that, though, he has a larger problem with the news. Similarly to Miss Amanpour, he has an issue with the internet. The internet to him is the driving force for fake news, though for a completely different reason than Miss Amanpour. Fake news has always been a thing, but back in the day, it would stay local and fizzle out. But now, we are connected in a way that humanity never has been before. It's good for getting lots of perspectives on different stories, but it makes it a lot easier for falsities to be spread. In a matter of minutes, news stories can travel from the source to millions of people around the world. He is of the mind, however, that you cannot fix the news. There is no way to shut down fake news, and any attempt would come dangerously close to censorship. He believes that the best anyone can do is to educate the public. Make people understand that they should not get their information from only one source, and they should try to form an opinion after considering all sides of a situation. I personally believe that the biggest issue with the news right now is bias. Bias within the news itself and to a larger extent within the consumer. I agree with Neil Thorne in that the news and bias go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other because of how it's set up. Whoever is paying the corporation gets to decide what news gets printed. I also agree that you can't really fix that fact because corporations need funds to stay afloat. What we can fix, however, is the ignorance within the consumer. Everybody has a bias. You all see the world differently than I do. You see the world differently than each other do. However, it's everyone's responsibility to seek out stories that don't confirm their bias. In short, I believe that people should try to experience stories from different sources and angles in order to get the full picture. Otherwise, we risk staying in a bubble we risk staying in an echo chamber with the same ideas bouncing around and we're only hearing one side of the story. And now here's Muiz Mustafa presenting a completely fabricated news story and seeing how people react based on their bias. Hi, Andrew.
Hello.
So I'm just trying to see how people react to this recent development in news, or in the news cycle lately.
Okay.
So, did you hear about how Donald Trump is cutting ties with South Korea because of their increasing, or he's attempting to cut ties with South Korea because of their increasing relationship with the North?
No.
Well, what are your thoughts on that?
It's hard for me to really form an opinion without gathering all the facts before giving an opinion. I don't really like basing my opinions on headlines, but if you really, South Korea has been a fairly large ally to us since the Korean War, or to the United States since the Korean War, and we've had that they've had that 50-year relationship, and now just for one thing, trying to make peace with a country that they have historical ties to, and they're just gonna disregard 50 years of that just because they've done this one thing. It just doesn't seem right.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Fawny. So I'm just wondering, have you heard about the news story about North Korea and South Korea because of their strengthening relationship? Donald Trump, he's tweeted a couple days ago or something about how he's going to start cutting ties with the South.
No.
Well,
I don't know anything about that.
What do you think about that?
I don't know. I don't watch or I don't follow along with politics and stuff, so I don't know. I didn't know that this was happening. I don't see why it would happen.
Okay, thank you, Fawny. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Louise.
So I was just wondering if you heard about the news story about Donald Trump cutting ties with South Korea because of their increasing bond or relationship with North Korea.
Yeah, I heard.
And thoughts?
Well, I think that Donald did a good thing and that he did the right choice because, well, it is kind of dangerous with all the nukes around and all the potential threats.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Hi, Lucia. So I was just wondering if you heard about the news story of Donald Trump. He tweeted a couple of days ago actually that he was cutting ties with South Korea because of their increasing relationship with North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
So did you hear about that?
Yes, I did.
And?
I think Trump is wrong because, first of all, I don't like him. Second of all, he always seems to make the wrong decision. And third of all, this was one of those wrong decisions.